Hey guys, this is going to be the support. I'm going to go through the notes for champ select, early game, mid game, and onwards for the game so that we cover every part of the game. And I'm going to try and give you sort of a game plan and a playbook for what you should be trying to think about and what you should be trying to achieve in the different parts of the game to increase your effectiveness in the game and to give you a more comfortable approach to the game and sort of create more stable games for you so that you can see the progress in your games and start working on the same things over and over and over so you can improve at the areas of the game that you need to improve at. This is going to be in two parts. In part one, we're going to go over champ select and early game. In part two, we're going to go over mid game and onwards, which is mid game and late game. I usually view mid game and late game as the same thing in terms of game plan because it's more so the laning phase when people are stuck in their lanes and whatever happens after. And whatever happens after is mid game and onwards. But what's really important is that we do shift our objectives and we do shift our mindset. So in part one here, I'm going to go through champ select and early game, as I said. And in part two, we're going to go through mid game and onwards. I'm going to list notes on the screen for you. And we're going to go through them and I'm going to explain every single one of them. I do highly recommend that you do write down this yourself and either put up the notes on your secondary screen with Windows sticky notes or a notepad, or if you only have one screen, put them on sticky notes around your monitor or write them over in a notepad or something like this in real life so that you're able to see the notes as you play. I want you to visually be able to see very close proximity with your main screen, the notes. This will lead you to focus more on the areas of the game where you need to have your focus and will remind you to think about the right things at the right time in the game so that hopefully your games are going to be smoothened out and you're going to have more stable games and you're going to have better games. Okay, let's just jump straight into it. Champ select. This is mostly the same for both ADC and support, and a lot of the notes that I'm going to go through are going to correlate, but it's important that we have them very clear, specified out, regardless. Number one, jungle clear speed differential. You want to think about the jungle clear speed of both your jungler and the enemy jungler so that you can anticipate where the jungler is going to be based on where he starts and based on where your jungler is. For example, if both junglers start on the bottom side of the map, both Bali and Leashes, if the junglers have similar clear speed, then when your jungler is level 3, having cleared 3 camps, then you can anticipate that the enemy jungler has also cleared 3 camps and is level 3 with double buffs. This can be very useful if the enemy jungler starts on the top side of the map and he's going to end level 3 with double buffs on the bottom side of the map and hence is going to be able to gank your lane. And this is going to let you know when you need to place your trinkets or when you need to play defensively according to the enemy jungler. It also allows you to save wards in the early game if you know that the jungler shouldn't be on your side of the map unless he does some sort of cheese, and then we can be more productive with our pressure and more productive with our time, and we don't need to waste trinkets when they're not really being utilized, as we already have information that dictates that the enemy jungler should not be on our side of the map at the current time. We want to think about the ball lane push and power level 1, 2, 3, and 6. What I mean with this is, do we have push level 1 and do we have power level 1? This is two different things. And I want to think about this on level 1, 2, 3, and 6 because these are the levels where you get new abilities. And level 1 dictates who gets level 2 first. The reason we think about this is because you already want to start pre-planning how you want to play out the lane. So you want to know when you want to play defensively and you want to know when you want to play aggressively and when you want to look for opportunities to trade and when you want to look for opportunities to fight and when we can maintain pressure in the lane. So this is going to depend on your ADC and it's going to depend on their ADC and their support. Together with this, we always want to focus pre-planning and pre-thinking. I put a lot of focus on that we actually pre-plan and pre-think in our games so that we are proactive instead of reactive. The more proactive we are in our games, the more suited we are to actually deal with the situations that occur within the game and the more control you are going to be over the situations. If you're productive and you're forcing the situation, then you're going to be more in control of it than the opposing party that is reacting to it, right? So with a lot of the notes that I have here, it's about giving you the opportunity to actually pre-plan and pre-think so that you have already visualized, you've already thought through the situation before you go into it, and then you only need to focus on the execution. You already know what you need to do, you already know which target you need to go on, where you need to ward, what you need to do, where you need to play for, right? Okay, that covers champ select and sort of loading screen. Let's move over to early game. The first thing you think about in the early game is, can you get level 2 first? This is going to depend on whether you have push level 1 or whether you are just straight up stronger than the enemy bot lane level 1. If you're straight up stronger, then you can deny them or trade them or fight them level 1 so that you can secure level 2. If you have better push, then you can just push for the level 2. And if this is not the case and the enemy bot lane has better push or pressure, then you want to consider giving a lesser leash to your jungler level 1 so that you can come earlier to the lane. If you were to leave the leash for your jungler at 135 instead of 139, which is the normal time, well, then you have 4 extra seconds in your lane, and you can set up the lane the way you want so that you can secure getting level 2 first. You can start trimming down the lane and start attacking the ranged minions, for example, so that the lane is in a more favorable situation when the enemy bot lane actually enters it. It's really important in the early game that we always try to track the enemy jungler. And in the very first levels of the game, this is going to be based on the jungle clear speed differential, because you're going to be able to track the enemy jungler through your jungler in terms of how many camps he's been able to clear and where approximately he's going to be on the map. Most junglers are very predictable up until very, very high elo where there's a lot of mind tricks, but most junglers will just look to do buff camp buff and then either try to gank or do 2 more camps and then base. So you can sort of anticipate where the enemy jungler is based on your jungler, and hence you can play more smarter according to where the enemy jungler is. You can avoid using trinkets when you don't need to, and you can maintain pressure when you know that he's not going to be there. So it's really, really important that we always try to track and keep an idea about where the enemy jungler is. Before you push up in your lane, before you pressure your lane, you need to know whether or not you are at risk from the enemy jungler. And if you feel at risk from the enemy jungler, based on the information you have, then you need to get vision control. Either through trinkets, either through control wards, or either through maybe getting crab, or something else. Always do stuff calculated. Like, I want you to have confidence, I want you to play with pressure, I want you to be aggressive, but I want it to be calculated. So if you want to pressure, and you think that the jungler might be there, then establish the vision control first so that you can do it safely. As a support, you have a lot more time than the ADC to run around and actually establish vision, so this is more on you than the ADC. Try to avoid contesting the lane if you are at a disadvantageous situation. This can be either being lower level, having less minions, having less items. If this is the case, then you want to wait for the minion wave to bounce on your tower so that it creates an equilibrium in the lane, so that you can sort of have a reset and blank situation where you have opportunities to fight where it's either equal or you are at an advantage, right? For example, imagine you lose a trade 2v2, they're pushing. Then you don't want to try and contest the minion wave unless it gets all the way to your turret and you can farm it safely, because you don't want to take more damage than you need, and you want to be able to heal up and get back into a situation where you can actually go back to trading or fighting or taking pressure in your lane again. Always try to reduce dead time and always think about time efficiency. These two things hang together. Always want to be time efficient, and you always want to get the most out of your time. And this hangs together with always doing something, whether it's getting vision, getting XP, getting gold, participating in fights, applying pressure. As long as you're doing something, that's good. If you don't need to stay in your lane, if you're low mana, low HP, if you have a big item spike, just take the base and come back stronger. Like, sometimes it's better to take the base. Better to take too many bases than too few, right? But always try to think about it in a way that you don't want to have dead time in the game, and you want to have as high time efficiency as possible. And as with any role, you want to buy a lot of control wards. Every single time you base, just try to get 2-3 pink wards and try to make use of them. There's a million ways we can use them, and especially in bot lane, there's a lot of interesting scenarios that we can do in bot lane as we walk into lane, for example, as blue side. If you want to have pressure and you want to secure yourself from teleports from behind and from ganks, you can use a triple tri-brush sweep. Triple control ward sweep, sorry. So when you come into lane, you get your first pink ward in the tri-brush, then you move the pink ward to the first lane brush when you have the opportunity, and you leave a trinket in the tri-brush. Then once you have more pressure in the lane and you gotta push, then you move your pink ward to the river. Now you know that both of the brushes behind you are clear, and you have the vision control on the river. So the only potential brush where there could be teleports would be the enemy brush. And if your ADC is a nice guy, then he will add his pink ward there. But even without your ADC doing anything here, you've been able to clear the entire area behind you and establish good vision control. And you know that you're not at risk from teleports from behind, and that should allow you to play really aggressive and apply a lot of pressure to the enemy bot lane. That covers support, champ select, and early game. In the next part, we're going to go over mid game and onwards and sort of what you need to think about. Again, I want to reiterate that I really highly recommend you to write down these notes and put them out in a way where you can actually see them as you play, either on your secondary screen or around your main monitor, notepad, sticky notes, whatever floats your boat, hologram, I don't know. But just try to get them out there so you can actually see them when you play. They do help. It does make a difference. Okay, I'll see you in part 2.